Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. I trust the week's gone well. It was a great pleasure yesterday to catch up with Jacqueline Novogratz, who practically invented impact investing. She's the principal behind Acumen. I met her many years ago when they held a TEDx function in Kibera. Many years ago, we stayed friends, then we met up. We were on a panel at the IMF, World Bank meetings in Washington, and I hadn't seen her for quite a while. And she's a very great fan of Hafiz and Rumi. So I was telling her about that Rumi quote of "We come spinning out of nothingness, scattering stars like dust," and saying, it's an incredible story, that it actually is technically correct, because more than half of the atoms that make up our body come from, galaxies billions and billions of light years away, carried on intergalactic winds. And we had a little chat about that, amongst other things. They've created a renewable solar energy off-grid fund, and it was very good to catch up. And then what was really fun was there's a chap called Amar Inamdar there, who's the principal of this fund, and I said to him, Amar, I met your mum about 10 days ago at the Mathaya Club, and she told me about you coming back. You've got to go and tell her that we've now met. She was rather keen that we would. Bob was the moderator, and said he's going to teach me how to moderate, which he did. Mugo Kibati, Amar, myself, and Jesse Moore of M Kopa were on the panel. And Mugo is due to come on Mindspeak. Jesse, I'm looking for Mindspeak as well. So we've got a lot of people coming up. It's been a bit slow on that front, but we're going to push it now quite hard. The election's over. I think everyone can get their minds on different things. It tends to be a fever here with this whole election business. But largely over. People ask me about that, what about the court case? Look, if the court case is of the same quality as that 51-page document that was produced at the first press conference in the Caramel Bar, which is the most expensive bar in Nairobi, then there's no chance. You've got to show something systemic, and I don't think that threshold will be crossed at all. Jackson Hole is the big deal today. This is a photograph looking out of a window there. Let's see what happens. Thing is, Janet Yellen is practically always dovish, so I think people are getting carried away, expecting her to make some dramatic statement. Will be proven wrong. Forget Europe. Politics has made the US the market's new problem child. This is what I've been banging on about, Washington being the epicenter of geopolitical and financial risk these days. This proves it. Home thoughts sunset over Nairobi city. This is from Moses Obanda. I actually lived in Nairobi when I was at boarding school when I was 9 years old until I was 13. Then I came back 10 years ago, kind of like 30 years later. And in 2012, I was putting some thoughts together about Nairobi, and I said, Nairobi has an edginess which can become very intense. I wrote then, there are two Africas now. The average age in sub-Saharan Africa is 20. These folks are all connected, surfing the now in a way that is breathtaking. I work not more than 10 minutes away from the Norfolk Hotel, and it's all highly urban, highly aspirational, tech-savvy. After all, Kenya was the laboratory that gave birth to the mobile money sensation M-Pesa. It's a hub. The traffic can be frightful, but it's on the move. Nairobi has an edginess which can become very intense, and as the year was ending, I was talking about 2012, I really wanted to step off the train. I wanted to feel a different, more ancient African pulse. And we were then going to Fairmont Mara, which we subsequently tend to visit once a year, and thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. And then I like this photograph, sunset walks down the beach. And I do miss the seaside, of course, and I'm from Mombasa, which is on the sea. And went back to playing myself the OJs and the Love Train, which is a Tom Moulton mix. Link is there. I was listening to the lyrics and thinking, my goodness, how far away have we moved from that era of love, and everybody was, we were all passengers on the same spaceship. And today, goodness, I don't know what we're doing. Then I saw this photograph, Marsabit, 224 kilometers, Moyale, 473 kilometers. Moyale is on the Kenyan-Ethiopian border, and I keep telling my missus, come on, let's go on a road trip and see what's going on up there. So far, she's resisted my impulse. Pula's twin cubs hadn't been seen for a while. This is We Are Wilderness photograph of leopard. Magnificent animals. One of my favourite books as well is Il Gattopardo, which is the leopard in Italian. And if you have the time, watch the love-making of a leopard in this documentary, narrated by Jeremy Irons. The documentary is magnificent, but there's 3 minutes in there, which is pretty extraordinary. The bar functioning as a cafe at the Rosiette Hotel on August 19th. Looked rather good, I thought, this photograph. That took me to The Great Gatsby and Scott Fitzgerald. And I like large parties. They are so intimate. At small parties, there isn't any privacy. In his blue gardens, men and girls came and went like moths among the whisperings and the champagne and the stars. Scott Fitzgerald, Great Gatsby. When I read that book, I must have been about 14. First time I read it. I've read it so many times after that, and I always wanted to be Jay Gatsby. So that. Political reflections, China prepares for an era of asymmetric warfare, Financial Times, with their tiny propellers buzzing, the fleet of Chinese aircraft, little larger than model planes, are flung into the air one at a time by huge rubber bands. Soon the sky is full of toy-like drones flying in formations over unidentified mountains in China. The unlikely spectacle could represent a revolution in military affairs. The June 11th demonstration of swarm technology by China Electronics Technology Group, a state-owned high-tech company, included 119 drones that made it the world's largest ever swarm, according to CETC, breaking a US-held record. Each tiny aircraft, bought online for a few $100s, is loaded with software and sensors capable of communicating with the other drones in the swarm. Developers are working towards a future where thousands could operate in sync, identifying and attacking targets. In theory, such swarms could feature drones fitted with missiles or warheads, capable of sophisticated attacks designed to overwhelm defenses with their sheer numbers. This goes all the way back to the tactics of Attila the Hun, says Randall Stieb, a light attack force that can defeat more powerful and sophisticated opponents. They come out of nowhere. Swarming is currently considered to be one of the most promising areas of defense technology development in the world. The Chinese are prioritizing it. For example, swarms of autonomous boats could appear when a US ship sails close to a disputed island in the South China Sea and block its path. Referred to by the US military as grey zone threats, they could leave a superior military with a dilemma about how to respond without appearing to be the aggressor. Clearly, the US and China are in some sort of weird swarm race, says Paul Share, a senior fellow at the Center for New American Security, who writes on military robotics. A swarm with 10 more individual drones isn't necessarily better. What matters are the things you can't see. It's the algorithms that govern the swarm behavior. Xi Jinping behaves as if China has made a great military leap forward. And you can read that in his body language. The Nepalese Prime Minister has arrived in India amid the Doklam standoff, and Narendra Modi has rushed to meet him. I think Narendra Modi has got to be very circumspect about that Doklam plateau, because I think he would lose in an arm wrestle with Xi Jinping. and then he would not find it possible to recover because, if you're a strong man, you've got to be strong. You can't take losses. Russia is to start building a new aircraft carrier by 2025. Russian nuclear bombers fly near North Korea in rare short show of force. Russian nuclear-capable strategic bombers have flown a rare mission around the North Korean peninsula at the same time as the United States and South Korea conduct joint military exercises that have infuriated Pyongyang. Russia, which has said it is strongly against any unilateral US military action on the peninsula, said Tupolev 95 MS bombers, codenamed Bears by NATO, had flown over the Pacific Ocean, the Sea of Japan, the Yellow Sea, and the East China Sea. Japan and Seoul scrambled jets to escort them. Russians are really everywhere these days. Donald Trump has added a routine caveat before approving proposals placed before him. Check with the general before moving ahead. Another Senate Republican aide added, Kelly is the only thing saving America right now. I came across a really interesting thread on Twitter by a chap called Conspirador Norteno, otherwise at Conspirator Zero. A pattern you may have noticed, many bots, and go to that link because it's quite interesting because it kind of backs up what I wrote about. We have a deviate tomahawk. A pattern you may have noticed, many bot and troll accounts have usernames that end in 8 random digits. This fellow searched through 2 recent datasets, propagators of Fire Muck Master and Unite the Right hashtags, and found 824 such accounts. Searching their followers for similarly named accounts and subsequently their followers yielded 63,099 accounts. Then he showed us the follower network formed by these 63,099 accounts. Larger circle equals more accounts with the 8-digit numbers amongst its followers. Then he looked at the largest node in the network, which turned out to be David Joe 52951945. This account's been around for a while, since early 2013, 136,000 tweets. Here's an interesting observation. David is posting at 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, Moscow time, almost like it's his job or something. What's he tweeting about? This figure illustrates the volume of David Joe's tweets, mentioning various topics over the years. Look at it carefully. Okay, do you remember 5th of December 2016? We have a deviate tomahawk. And I said, then hindsight will surely show that Russia ran a seriously sophisticated program of interference, mostly digital. This is a classic example of that. And I said, then that digital program of interference amplified the Trump candidacy. And Trump was an ideal candidate for that kind of support. He's a linguistic warfare specialist. Returning back to this thread, along comes the 2016 election and David Joe is tweeting some very familiar sounding material about Hillary Clinton. Very alt-right-esque messaging about Michael Flynn and the deep state. Bear in mind that David Joe is posing as British. I do have to say this is one of the more interesting troll accounts I've seen, and almost certainly human operated, not a bot. Conclusion, almost certainly a Russian invention, and B, a far more influential social media node than your average bot. And that's what I was talking about when I said in that article of mine, non-linearity. You have to learn how to navigate a linear system in a non-linear way. They've done it a little bit here, haven't they? Those numbers are a dead giveaway. And careless, in fact. In Mombasa, at that time I was writing about, the governor launched a bot attack with 100 bots repeating verbatim what the others were saying. And I was saying that was a very linear intervention, which wouldn't work. And going back to my article, I started by quoting Don DeLillo and saying he's a prophetic 21st century writer, and he writes as follows in one of his short stories. The specialist is monitoring data on his mission console when a voice breaks in, a voice that carried with it a strange and unspecifiable poignancy. He checks in with his flight dynamics and conceptual paradigm officers at Colorado Command. We have a deviate tomahawk. We copy, there's a voice. We have gross oscillation here. There's some interference. I've gone redundant, but I'm not sure it's helping. We are clearing an outframe to locate the source. Thank you, Colorado. It is probably just selective noise. Your negative red on the step function quad was a voice, I told them. We've just received an affirm on selective noise. We will correct Tomahawk. In the meantime, advise you to stay redundant. The voice, in contrast to Colorado's metallic pidgin, is a melange of repartee, laughter, and song with the quality of purest, sweetest sadness. Somehow we were picking up signals from radio programs of 40, 50, 60 years ago. Putin's approval rating among Russians is 83%. Russland will grenzen mit Gewalt ziehen. This is a meeting with General Mattis and the Ukrainian president, and where Mattis very much took the president's side. Australian war photographer Andrew Quilty on life in Afghanistan. This photograph kind of arrested my attention. Gul Ahmed, an infant boy suffering from acute malnutrition, is covered by his mother's scarf. Tanzanian court starts trial of co-founders of whistleblower website. Tanzanian court Thursday began hearing a case against two co-founders of a whistleblower website who are charged with obstructing justice by refusing to reveal the identities of users who post details of suspected corrupt officials. Prosecutors charged Mickey William and Maxence Melo Mutyazi, owners of the Jamii Forum site, under the Cybercrimes Act. Several people have been charged under the law, which came into effect in 2015. They've taken a very hard line approach, and not the right one, I don't think. Don't look now, but Japan's 10-year yield is again headed back to zero. So, from David Inglis, and then a comparison of Japanese 10-year yields with other big G7 bond yields. Let's go on to the currency markets. Euro, dollar 117.84, dollar index 93.33, dollar yen 109.66, Swiss franc 0.9654, the pound 128 the figure, the Australian dollar is at 0.7910. India rupee 64.068, South Korean won 1128.58, Brazilian real 3.1479, Egyptian pound 17.69, South African rand 13.1774. Dollar index 93.50 is key. Take a look at this chart and you can see why. Euro dollar last at 117.85. The markets have high expectations that Draghi's going to say something. Let's see. Brexit's gravity is pulling the pound to euro parity. This is from Bloomberg Gadfly. I'm looking for the pound to drop to 125 against the dollar. Commodity markets, crude oil. This chart is from Triple Leverage. We're trading right now at $47.80. I'm very bearish, expecting it to drop at some point quite sharply. Gold last trading at 1287.37. Sitting just below this key resistance level around the 1300 level. I wrote a piece a few months ago when I said gold could go nuclear, but now for it to go nuclear we need something even more dramatic than we've already seen. It's party time for the metals no one knows about. Vanadium prices have risen 89% this year according to the Metal Bulletin data. The metal doubled in 2016 following 3 consecutive annual declines. Moving on, Angola's ruling party leads with 65% of the provisional vote. Main opposition party, UNITA, received 24.4% of the vote. MPLA will probably gain control of Angola's 220-member legislature and have its presidential candidate João Lourenço 63 succeed, outgoing President José Eduardo dos Santos. Voter turnout was 77%. These results aren't real, said José Petro Cachungo, a UNITA official. The National Electoral Commission was a disaster. Dos Santos, who's retiring, is said to enjoy music and poetry as well as cooking fish, and was once a keen footballer. Though seldom seen in public, he has been a looming presence in daily life for as long as most Angolans can remember, maintaining fierce control over the country throughout its devastating civil war and recent oil boom. He is an accomplished and shrewd economic and political dealmaker with an instinct for political survival. Married to the glamorous former air hostess Ana Paula, who's 18 years his junior. His children include Isabel, who's the head of the state-owned Senegal Oil Company and reputed to be Africa's richest woman. Look, reserves, as I wrote in May, have been depleted from Abuja to Riyadh, from Luanda to Caracas, and in all the oil-producing capitals in the world. They've just kicked the can down the road. The denouement is coming. He outlasted Reagan and Castro and Gorbachev. Angola's 74-year-old leader is stepping down. J-Lo is going to be the new president. I'll put up a photograph of him. Africa Confidential has an interesting piece, Dos Santos Inc. under threat. After the elections, Lourenco will come under pressure to rein in the Dos Santos family's business empire. How far and fast he goes may be the first test of his presidency. Congo first half copper output is up 15% on better prices. But inflation is going to hit 52%. 15th of May, I wrote about Africa playing catch-up. I was referencing the stock market. I said the rest of Africa badly lagged this global rally. Here in Nairobi, the all-share crashed, minus 10.11% from the start of the year through March 8th. NSE 20 slumped 12.467% through January 30. Everyone I spoke to was ready to throw in the towel. Over on the west side, Nigeria's all-share was minus 8.53% through March 6th of this year. Ghana was a standout, up very dramatically at that point. Nairobi all-share, when I wrote this piece, up 3.34%, 6-month high. NSE 20 at a 6-month high. Nigerian all-share up 4.9% and at a 9-month high. And I said there was a significant mood change, and there was, because look, the South African all-share today is up 11.72% year-to-date at a record high. Nigeria Stock Exchange is up 36.1%. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 38.44%. And general, these markets have rallied dramatically. Dollar versus Rand, 13.1774. You know, I'm having a little nibble at the Rand. South Africa considers Telkom a stake sale to fund SAA bailout. They should just try and fix SAA. Shares in Massmart are down about 25% in the past 5 years, lagging a nearly 1/3 rise in Shoprite. Interesting. Muhammad Buhari have just signed instruments of ratification for a number of agreements covering anti-corruption, tax admin, and intellectual property protection. Nigerian all-share is up 36.1% in 2017. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 38.44% in 2017. The more I look at what's happening in Freetown, the more I'm worried that can happen in so many places on the continent. Because we've just built higgledy-piggledy with very few building controls. Let's move on to Kenya. The annual bill for paying 700,000 public employees, including elected leaders, stands at $6.1 billion. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission, which sets wage levels, said last month it would slash salaries of top officials, including the president and lawmakers, to save 8.5 billion shillings a year, just over 1%. Meaningful. The cuts include scrapping a 5 million shilling car grant given to every legislator, removal of certain allowances, and a 90,000 shilling reduction in basic monthly pay. Kenyans have reacted angrily to lawmakers' demands for the reversal of the cuts. They posted fiery messages on social media threatening to recall their members of parliament and forcing at least one MP to perform a U-turn on television and say she would humbly accept the SRC's decision. The president has taken, rightly, a very hard line. It is shameful that we're barely a week away and these legislators, have not recognized the issues that made Kenyans angry. So there's just no way it's going to happen, and I'm all with SRC. The boss wants to talk to former UN rights expert on Kenya airport ordeal. This is Maina Kiai, a human rights activist who was held up for 2 hours at Jomo Kenyatta Airport while trying to board a flight from Nairobi to Amsterdam on Sunday. It's something that has never happened to me before. I went to the immigration counter to get my passport stamped, as we all do when we leave the country. The attendant said, "Would you please wait in the room? The boss wants to speak to you." Apparently he was let go. Safaricom closed yesterday at 25.25 plus 1%, new all-time high. Take a look at the share price data if you're interested, but it's going to close at another record today as well. Diamond Trust reported first half earnings per share declined 5.363%. Government securities up a whopping 34.1% to 105.4 billion. Very close to equities total holdings, interestingly enough. This has obviously been one of the side effects of the interest rate capping bill that will run into government securities. Loan and advances to customers, interestingly, that grew 7.25% to 191.46 billion. Total assets, of course, was higher because of the increase in government bonds, up 13.843%. Interest income up 0.726%. Interest expense, well managed, up 2.733%. Foreign exchange income, 793.84 million. Operating income minus 0.37%. This is what struck me. Operating expenses was up a whopping 21.679% to 5.279 billion. And I don't know whether that's to do with the all-share takeover of Habib Bank and maybe closing down a few branches or something, but we'll have to find out about that. Profit before income tax was down 4.076%. EPS was down 5.363%. I think it looks a value proposition at a trading price earnings ratio of 7.05, and with the geographical footprint that they have, it's very tightly managed. Not a great dividend paying stock, so you don't look for dividends. They tend to conserve their cash and compound it for shareholders, so it comes out of the share price. Bamburi Cement reported first half earnings per share down 38.601%. Turnover was down 8.247% to 17.53 billion. Operating costs barely unchanged, minus 0.555%. Finance costs up 55%. Investment income down 55%. Profit before tax down 37.453%. Profit after tax down 36.254%. Earnings per share down 38.601%. And interim dividend they're paying is 2 shillings and 50 cents versus 6 shillings last time. They said, and this is interesting, let's read this, the business in Kenya experienced a difficult business environment characterized by a contracting market, low private sector investment, resulting in a slump in construction activity, especially in the individual home builder segment, delays in some infrastructure projects, and drought conditions. In contrast, the business in Uganda enjoyed good market conditions in both domestic and export markets, with HEMA recording a good performance. Operating profit reduced from 4.1 billion to 2.7 billion due to lower revenues, higher coal prices, driven by increased world coal prices, and higher power costs following drought conditions in Kenya. Profit before tax declined to 2.7 billion shillings from 4.3 billion due to lower operating profit, impact of lower cash deposits at lower interest rates, and lower foreign exchange gains. Cash decreased to 7.4 billion due to payments for the capacity expansion in both Kenya and Uganda, together with lower cash from operations. Phase 1 of the capacity expansion project in both Kenya and Uganda that will see the group's cement grinding capacity increase by 1.8 million tonnes is on course. Commissioning of both projects scheduled for mid-2018. Poor first half, largely explained in that commentary, but I think it's speaking to some secular weakness in that sort of home building area construction. Kenya shilling 103.25 lost against the dollar, that's 3-month high. Nairobi all shares up 26.51% so far this year. BOC Kenya reported first half earnings per share was down 37.249%, revenue down 4.491%, profit before tax down 36.574%, EPS down 37.249%, maintained the interim dividend, which means they're paying out more in the interim dividend than they earned in the first half, which is interesting. Interesting report on Business Daily about Britam's earnings release, talking about a difference in accounting treatment, which has affected the results. There's a link for Britam there as well. NSE 20 is up 27.19% year to date, and I wish you a fabulous weekend. I really do.